Karen accused my grandson of trespassing on our ostrich farm 10 minutes later. He owned her entire HOA. Ever seen someone call the cops on a teenager for walking across land that's legally his? Now imagine that land is filled with 55 ostriches. That's exactly what happened the day my 17-year-old grandson, Jake, came back to visit me and ended up dismantling an HOA from the inside out in less than 24 hours. It was early June. The sky was wide open and the ostriches were pacing near the south gate, twitchy from the heat. Jake had just arrived from college prep courses, bright, sharp, quiet kid Ann asked to help walk the birds before lunch. He grabbed a feed bucket and headed toward the lower paddock. That's when it happened. A screech loud enough to make the birds scatter. "Hey, stop right there. This is private property." I looked up from the barn and saw her. Karen Bellamy, HOA president, HOA tyrant, HOA pain in every rear within 3 miles. Her swollen frame was squeezed into a beige linen jumpsuit, her face red and angry like she'd just swallowed battery acid. She was already stomping through the front gate uninvited, as usual waving a clipboard like it was a police baton. "That boy is trespassing," she barked, spit flying. "We have an active order that bans unauthorized minors from entering HOA land without an adult escort." I blinked. "What HOA land?" She pointed at the south paddock, our south paddock, the very same pasture my family had raised ostriches on since 1985. "This," she huffed, "was annexed into Hillside Dunes HOA last quarter under our boundary adjustment resolution. You were notified. We're repurposing this lot for the community dog park. He's interfering with development." Jake stepped back, confused, ostrich feed still in his hand. "Wait, this is my grandfather's ranch." Karen snarled. "That land no longer applies. It falls under new zoning. If he doesn't leave now, I'm calling the sheriff." I should have expected it. Karen had been trying to chip away at our family's property lines for years, claiming community benefit, easement rights, noise complaint from the birds. She once even called animal control because one ostrich looked at her funny. I looked at her, calm as I could manage. "You really want to do this, Karen?" She sneered. "I already did." She whipped out her phone and dialed 911. "There's a young man illegally walking livestock on HOA development land. He's armed with a long stick and making threats." The long stick was a PVC ostrich staff. The threats were Jake quietly whispering, "Here, girl," to Matilda, our biggest bird. Within 10 minutes, a deputy rolled up. Karen sprinted toward the cruiser like a contestant on The Price is Right. "That's him," she shrieked. "Right there. I want him removed, trespass charges filed, and a citation for endangering HOA infrastructure." The deputy stepped out slowly, looked at Jake, looked at me, then back at Karen. "You do realize this is still listed as Reuben Gardner's ranch, correct?" She paused. "What?" "County records show no HOA designation." In fact, he walked over to Jake. "Son, you Jake Gardner?" Jake nodded. "Yes, sir." The deputy handed him a sealed envelope. "This is for you. Certified title transfer. Just came through this morning." Karen gasped. "Title? What title?" That's when I smiled. Jake grinned too. Because twist number 1, I just transferred full ownership of the ranch to Jake 2 days earlier. As part of his college grant and agricultural business, he needed a full project to manage, and the ranch, with all its livestock, zoning, and tax credits, made the perfect hands-on assignment. Jake now owned it. Every acre, every ostrich. But that wasn't a knockout. Karen turned on her heel, furious. "That doesn't matter. The south paddock was legally signed over to the HOA." "Nope," Jake said, pulling a second envelope from his backpack. "Because this is the deed to the lot you think you annexed. Bought it last week at the tax auction after you let it default." Her eyes widened. "The HOA didn't pay its back taxes?" the deputy asked. Karen was sweating now. That was the treasurer's job. I submitted paperwork." Jake handed over the proof. The HOA had failed to pay property taxes on 4 parcels it had claimed, including the south paddock. And guess who had bought all 4 under a youth agricultural LLC? Jake. He didn't just own the paddock. He now owned the HOA's clubhouse, board parking lot, and half the common use trail behind the tennis court. And that, my friend, is when Karen's knees buckled. Karen tried to steady herself, clinging to her clipboard like it could somehow reverse time. "This is outrageous," she stammered. "You can't just buy our property." Jake, still calm, handed the deputy another document. All legally filed through the county. Deeds recorded. Liens cleared. No one from the HOA even showed up to the auction. The deputy nodded slowly. "He's right. I was there that day. Bought it fair and square." Karen's lip twitched. "We were going to pay the taxes. The mail must have been lost." Jake chuckled. "I guess next time you find someone for a decorative rooster being too lifelike, you might want to double-check your own mailbox." That got a few chuckles from the ranch hands. Even the deputy smirked. But it wasn't over yet, because Jake came prepared. He opened the final envelope from his backpack and unfolded a termination notice. It was formal, notarized, and addressed to Karen Bellamy, acting president of Hillside Dunes HOA. Effective immediately, the letter read, "Access to the HOA clubhouse, parking area, and adjoining trail would be suspended pending lease negotiations." Why? Because Jake now owned all of it. The entire HOA's operating center sat on land he purchased outright. Karen's face turned ghostly white. You can't do this. This is extortion." Jake raised an eyebrow. "No, ma'am. This is property management. You should appreciate that. After all, you once fined us $400 for a wind chime being too whimsical." Karen opened her mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Her voice cracked like a blown-out speaker. The HOA board members, standing nearby, slowly began backing away. Some pulled out their phones. One guy mouthed, "I told her." That's when it got worse. Twist number 2? The HOA's bank account had just been frozen. See, once Jake obtained ownership of the land beneath the HOA facilities, he had grounds to file an immediate cease and desist on all business activity occurring there. With that in place, the HOA's checking account used to collect dues and pay vendors was flagged for investigation due to operating on non-owned land. So not only could they no longer meet on HOA grounds, they couldn't even access their money. Karen slumped into the front seat of her flipped golf cart, mascara smeared, lips trembling. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Jake looked at her with something between pity and strength. "Because you told me I didn't belong here. And because you made it your mission to tear down a place my great-grandmother built with her own hands. This land is more than pasture. It's history. And you don't get to rewrite that because your ego needs a bigger dog park." That was the final blow. Karen resigned 3 days later in disgrace, blamed by her board, disowned by the community she once ruled with ironclad newsletters and passive-aggressive citations. Jake? He held a community reconciliation barbecue on the old HOA clubhouse lawn the following weekend. Dozens showed up. Seniors brought folding chairs. Kids fed the ostriches. A local bluegrass band played under a string of porch lights hanging from fence posts. He didn't charge a cent. Instead, he stood up on a hay bale with a mic and said, "This land belongs to the people who respect it, not to rules written out of fear or control. Let's rebuild not fences, but trust." That day, he started something bigger than a ranch. He began a new cooperative voluntary land stewardship program that offered residents the option to contribute if they wanted to help keep trails clean, pond-stocked, and barns safe. No fines, no forced dues, just folks taking care of each other. The ostriches? Still loud, still proud, still staring down whoever walks too close to the fence. And Karen? Last I heard, she tried applying for a job managing a different HOA. She was rejected the same day with a copy of Jake's deed attached to the email. So now let me ask you, was Karen protecting her neighborhood from a trespasser? Or was she just trespassing on a legacy far bigger than her clipboard? The end.